Hello, my name is the Reverend Lowe, and the Second Greater Recreationalist Congregation is my home. I send this message tonight to my home state of North Carolina. In this place, I have labored. In this place, I have struggled. In this place, I've had joy. I'm a child of the Underground Railroad from Guilford County, North Carolina. New Garden, the furthermost eastern point in the United States of America during the colonial period. New Garden was California. My place here, my home here, my life here means so much to me. My mission here. I've been talking to the saints. This place that God brought me back to. Oh, I've been on a journey. And I intended to have more to say about it as I guided and watched my own health. Oh, I had announcements to make about how good God is. But as I watched my home state fall apart over sheer arguments about dead white men, it upsets me that we have such an argument about dead white men when it's live, breathing, calculating, manifesting daily white men and black men and all other kinds of folks in the United States of America at the moment that are manipulating the whole culture, the whole place, not dead white men. The Confederate statues represent a period of conflict in American history. It's not nearly as simple as anyone has let on. Slavery was not nearly as simple as we are perceiving it. I say don't take down Silent Sam, because Silent Sam, Robert E. Lee, Mr. Aycock, everybody else that stands on that Confederate flag and has those Confederate sentiments, all those gentlemen, every one of them and their wives and mamas were raised in the South by slaves. Most of them were breastfed by 2 or 3 different slaves. Many of them learned to walk, talk, had their asses wiped, cleaned up all their throw up, sick up, grandpa's old nasty ass, and everything else on the plantation. So slaves raised every one of these Confederate colonels that you see sitting on these statues. Go to each county that you live in, pull up the records and see how many of the daughters of the Confederacy sent pensions in each county to black men who served in the Confederacy. The South was a heartbreak for Northern soldiers who came serving in uniform to free the Southern slave from all the tyranny of those plantation barons of the South with their mint julep drinking asses. And when they got here and they were getting their heads thumped and cracked by slaves who fought for the Confederacy. Women in Williamsburg, Virginia described an onslaught of Confederate soldiers, and they talked about how they were in columns of gray with contraband, male and female, on horses. And it's amazing. Fredericksburg, I'm sorry. It's amazing that those stories talk about the power of the Southern Army and the fact that the power in it is the very thing called contraband. Well, slaves were not considered people, so they were called contraband. And history records that contraband were greatly used by the South. But nobody explains. Most folks these days think contraband is what happens when they got caught with a $50 bag of cocaine coming out of Washington, D.C. That's what we think of contraband. But during the Civil War, contraband was our ancestors who were constantly not only fighting and defending, but the infrastructure of the South was maintained by slaves. All of the labor in the entire South, agricultural, mechanical, done by blacks in the South. So when you tear down the Colonel, do one thing. Remember that we could have had a discussion about just who raised those colonels. You want to make America better? Talk about the period in slavery in which white men who go on to become some of the great statesmen and warriors of this nation, and many of you flying the flags of the Confederacy today. And let me tell you, the flag of the Confederacy is loaded with black power. Black power. When you wave that flag, you better believe, if you know your history, your ass is waving another black power flag. Unfortunately, folks running around here in the 1950s and 60s trying to revive that nonsense because the Confederate flag had indeed gone to sleep for a while. But people tried to revive it in the 60s so that they could separate another wedge. And so here we have it again, all this Confederacy. When you talk about the Confederacy, you talking about black power. Now, whether you like it or not, I don't care if you got one waving outside your house, you might as well throw your fist up in the air when you walk past it too, because that's exactly what the hell it means. When you learn the history and know the history, half them colonels went to war and they had body servants. Excuse me. That meant when Uncle George, who taught his horse how to carry him and taught him how to walk to that horse and taught him how to get on that horse and taught him how to shovel horse shit on his day off, when General Lee stepped up on that pretty white thing that the slaves, Bucker and Giro and them, taught him how to ride and taught the horse how to carry him and went off to war, he took half of the plantation male corps with him as body servants. Who's gonna cook a general's breakfast? Who gonna carry his bed pot out? Who gonna polish a general's boots? Who's gonna make sure the general's ass don't get shot? Who crawls on top of the general and pull a 45 and shoot 3-4 motherfuckers just to keep him off the general? Take the general back home when the war's over and everybody say the general made it back home. Damn right he did. 7, 8, 9, 20 black men sitting on a battlefield somewhere dead, taking care of a general. You damn right the story of the South is complex. Let us not sit back and make simple statements about our history because we eliminate too many people who already their names are eliminated from history. We eliminated too many stories when you take the colonel down. So leave his ass up there. But my solution is to add a plaque. Go back and get all the names of them black women that raised him. Go look in the diaries and Lee's mama's family Bibles, and they'll tell you about John Henry and Esther and Maybelle and Rose and Booker and Caesar and Pompey. They'll tell you all about it and all the things they did for the whole plantation. And for every one of them colonels and generals you dig up in half of the South, and 50% of you who might just hear this that I'm saying were raised, if you're from the South, too many of you don't acknowledge it. But it's the greatest truth, the synergy of family that occurs during the period of slavery between blacks and whites creates a bond into the oddest of circumstances. And you must know that odd circumstances have odd realities as a reaction to their existence. If you do some look at Kim Jong-un, look at anywhere you've been experienced odd circumstances, war, prison, anywhere, being black creates odd circumstances. As a result, being white does the exact same thing. So it's far more complex than we're trying to acknowledge, because we don't want to acknowledge all that history. And if you want to acknowledge the United States of America and the good Southern colonels, tell his history, but tell the truth about his history. This place is too filled with lies and indifference. It's always been built on lies, but the new American sin, the great new American sin, is indifference. So don't take Sam down and grow up. get to a point that you can live up to the great creeds that you've talked about. Because take those creeds away, and I don't forget who someone writes, take those creeds away, and all that is left is Neanderthal. And it's very true. It's sad. We've had Jesus for 2,000 years. Let me preach to you for a minute. We've had him for 2,000 years. He said, I'll be with you till the end of the age. And for 2,000 years, every time he came back, and he's been back. Oh, he's been back a bunch of times. Look at the people we have hung and shot and killed all over the world. Patrice Lumumba, Ken Saro-Wiwa, Martin Luther King, gazillions of them. We chased Ida Wells Burnett all over France trying to catch her and kill her because she spoke against lynching in the United States of America. Jesus has been back a number of times. We always do the same thing to him. This age is a new age. Jesus said he'll be with us to the end of the age. He still loves us. But he had to go to God and make a report. And don't you know that if you tell somebody to do something for 2,000 years and they won't do it, I've had trouble with people that I've told to do shit just for 20 years. And it costs, oh man, irreparable damage with my relationship. And here's somebody been telling us to love each other for 2,000 years. And for 2,000 years, we ain't done shit on earth as it is in heaven. I think he said that. Heaven, here, not up there. You see, Jesus was replaced and repealed. So was St. Augustine. When Augustine defines Christianity, he defines it in terms of the Lord's Prayer and what Jesus said, on earth as it is in heaven. But that was an expensive deal for kings and queens and popes in the day. And that party of Republicans did the exact same thing that the contemporary party of conservatives and Republicans is